How about Bill and Hillary Clinton?
Hillary is one of the worst. Bill, I don't know. I don't hear too much about him because he's out of the picture now. But during those the controversy with selling the ports, I reversed her, and man, I mean, she was just malevolent sounding. Very, very, really demonic. She sounded very bad.
Have you reversed Al Gore?
Oh, yeah.
And Al Gore?
Oh, yeah. He's very malevolent also.
Lieberman?
Yes, he is.
So all the top leadership on both the Democratic and Republican side.
They're all playing on the same team. They're just pretending to be on opposite sides.
A place where some business is discussed despite what they say. The business that's discussed is discussed in a little place called the underground. And that underground is spelled with a capital U and a capital N. Underground. It was there I heard George Bush talking about mass genocide. What the plans were for mind control. And it was a Bohemian Grove that my daughter and I were subjected to brutal perversions, all of which were being covertly filmed. These covert films were then used for blackmail purposes because these criminals didn't trust each other. And they all had some bad information on the other one that they kept so that they could keep each other under control. I was also taken to various CIA near-death paramilitary compounds. One was in the Lake Shasta area, but the one I was taken to most often was in Lampe, Missouri. Lampe, Missouri is this little bitty place right near the Arkansas border. Not too far from Mena Airport. And it's a place where there's a whole lot of black helicopters and where guys are programmed to carry out military operations. And it's also a place where the Swiss Villa Amphitheater is located, where different country music acts who are involved in the white slavery and cocaine operations are brought through on a regular basis. In Nashville, the country music industry had been taken over by the CIA and was being used to transport the drugs throughout the country. Later, during the mid-'80s, a guy named Boxcar Willie came on the scene. Boxcar Willie sexually abused my daughter, and she's named him as one of her sexual abusers. But he also had been an overnight sensation through an ad that he did on television. An ad on television that used certain harmonics to make people think that he was something wonderful, and he became a success overnight because it was Boxcar Willie's job for the CIA to lure the country music industry closer to this major CIA cocaine hub near Lampe, Missouri. And the country music industry was subsequently moved to Branson, Missouri, particularly the cocaine operations and the white slavery aspects of it. It was also in Lampe, Missouri that I saw Bill Clinton and George Bush together. In 1984, they were there to carry out certain perversions, as well as indulge in what they refer to as the most dangerous game. It's their favorite sport of hunting humans. It's taken from a military operation where a person fights for their life and runs for their life in an attempt to escape being hunted. My daughter and I both endured being hunted by George Bush, and he's often said that it was his favorite sport. The hunting humans was the part that he left out. Nevertheless, he and Bill Clinton were there that one particular weekend after elections, and they were talking about the fact that George Bush was going to be the vice president again for another 4 years. And George Bush didn't particularly like this idea. He didn't like being in the public eye at all, but nevertheless he was going to do whatever it took to usher in the New World Order. Looking back at George Bush's past, you'll find out that he was first with the United Nations. Then he became a head of our CIA. And then it was my experience to know that George Bush was heavily involved in the Order of the Rose, as was every other perpetrator that I've mentioned, including Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan. And it's important to note the orders from the Rose were orders from George Bush. George Bush, although he may not be at the very top of this world dominance effort, is a very significant player. And it was also my experience that Ronald Reagan followed orders from the Rose, and that Bill Clinton followed orders from the Rose. On this particular day, while they were talking, Bush said what I'd heard Senator Byrd say on different occasions, that when the American public became disillusioned with Republicans ushering in the New World Order, that they would put Bill Clinton in as a Democrat to make people think there was some kind of change going on in this country, when in fact there was no change at all. Their agendas are exactly the same. And they were discussing this and laughing at how they were going to pull the wool over the eyes of the American people. I was appalled to see Bill Clinton go into the office of president, and I know that Bill Clinton is following orders, as always, from George Bush and carrying out his orders of the Rose. It was also at this Lampe, Missouri compound that I was sexually assaulted by Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton both are considered to be bisexual, but it was my experience, although my experience with Bill Clinton sexually was extremely limited, I witnessed him involved in homosexual activity on several occasions, one being with my mind control handler, Alex Houston. Hillary Clinton was interested in the fact that I had been vaginally carved and mutilated. This was of interest to her. She thought it was absolutely fascinating. It was something that Senator Byrd had done in the early 80s to fulfill certain perversions and also to be used in pornography, particularly pornography by the White House chief pornographer, or by Reagan's chief pornographer, Larry Flynt, who has Hustler magazine. You'll notice that Larry Flynt uses CIA mind-controlled slaves in the pages of his filth magazines, and these girls are all electrically prodded, and it's very obvious to those with eyes to see exactly the tortures that these girls have endured, and the fact that they are not in control of their own thoughts, their own mind, their own lives, and their own actions. But Hillary thought it was real interesting, so not only that, but I also heard her say at that time that I was considered to be clean, free of any social diseases, because I was a presidential model. I carried out specific criminal covert operations throughout the Caribbean, including Haiti, which had been infested with the AIDS virus. And I would go directly from Haiti right back to the White House, and there was absolutely no protection used. They all knew that there was no risk. For whatever reason, certainly raises questions nevertheless. It was Hillary that sexually assaulted me in Lampe, Missouri. There are many different operations that I was forced to carry out as a CIA mind control slave. These operations are detailed in our book, Transformation of America. Transformation of America is substantiated with sufficient documentation, witnesses, and testimony that we are certainly ready for any congressional hearings into the matter, because we've been stopped from any justice so far for reasons of national security. We want to overcome that. Hopefully, this book is going to incite someone to take action against exactly what's going on. And if for no other purpose, it will open the eyes of the American public to exactly who and what is running our country and for what purposes. And it makes a whole lot of what we're seeing going on in our society suddenly make sense.